The Boston Celtics win again. They beat another good team by a lot of points again. And now they are the top seed in the East. And it doesn't matter. And I'm going to tell you why right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making the show part of your daily routine and your first listen every day, Monday through Friday. This podcast is free. It's available everywhere, wherever you get your podcasts. It's on YouTube. Please watch the show on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit that bell so you get notified whenever a new show drops and whenever I do decide to go live. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Boston Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. I was one of the media voters on the 75th anniversary team. I'm around the Celtics a lot. I talk about the Celtics a lot, and I'm here to do it every Monday through Friday. Today, I'm doing it after a 134-112 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. So I said at the top, it doesn't matter that the Celtics are now the number one seed in the East. And that's because of injuries and nagging injuries, and who knows how bad Robert Williams' injury is. And that's coming up. I'll save all that stuff actually for the last segment. We'll talk about that. I'm actually going to save most of the specific game stuff for the second segment. First, I just want to talk about this top seed. The Philadelphia 76ers lost to the Phoenix Suns. So Boston now has moved into a tie with Miami for the top seed. And because the Celtics have the tiebreaker against the Miami Heat, that means the Celtics are currently the number one seed in the East. Milwaukee, Philly are both a half game behind, and they are at 46 and 28. So basically, four teams are tied in the loss column. Boston, Miami, Milwaukee, Philly all have 28 losses. Boston and Miami have 47 wins. Milwaukee and Philly still have to play another game to catch up, and we'll see how that goes. In fact, they play each other this week. This is going to be a big week. This week's going to decide a lot. And I'm not sure what these teams are going to do anymore because, I was having conversations with people, around the team, and the consensus was you want to be down around 3 or 4, but the Celtics wanted to be down around 3 or 4 because Miami was at that top seed, and that 4-5 game was against Chicago, and that seems like a matchup that people kind of want. They don't want the potential 1-8 matchup if it's going to be Brooklyn. However, Brooklyn just lost to the Charlotte Hornets at home with Kyrie at home in his first game at home. And I think that's sort of, I don't want to say indicative of what's going to happen, or what could happen, but it is a little bit supportive of why is everyone this afraid of the Brooklyn Nets? I get it. It's Kevin Durant, and I get it. Kyrie Irving, but they are still vulnerable. They're still vulnerable. They were, it's not like they have Harden anymore, and they have some flaws. They have flaws defensively. I think they have flaws. It's not a team that you want to face in the first round, but I don't think it's death facing them in the first round. But anyway, their loss to the Hornets, they're tied. Brooklyn right now could be in the 9-10 game. So they would have to win twice before that first round matchup. So the Celtics, they're going to be in the top 4, right? They're going to be in the top 4 because there's 7 games left, and they have a 3.5 game lead over Chicago, who is in 5th. it's just hard to imagine a complete implosion that's going to drop them way down. I mean, it would have to basically go perfectly. Chicago would have to go on a huge, huge run, which I don't believe in. Boston would have to lose out. And it's just a problem that I don't think is going to exist. Boston's going to be in the top 4. So they're going to have their home court. You don't have to worry too much about that. They're also going to have that week off. By virtue of climbing to this number 1 seed, they've now asserted themselves. They are now in that top 4, and they're staying in this top. It's going to be some version of this 4 at the top of the East, which, by the way, is kind of exactly what we thought. It took a long, weird road to get here, but isn't this exactly what we talked about at the beginning of the season? Your top seed's going to be Milwaukee and Philly. And okay, Brooklyn is the outlier because of the vaccine stuff, right? And they had their own issues. But Brooklyn is the outlier. We knew that Miami and Boston would be in the mix for this top 4, and that's where we are. So the Celtics have this top seed, and they play Miami on Wednesday. You've got Milwaukee and Philly on Tuesday, so they play first. The Celtics have Milwaukee a week from Thursday. So if the Celtics, first of all, the Celtics own tiebreakers. They already own the tiebreaker against Miami. They already own the tiebreaker against Philly. Because they're in the same division, they would be, if they end up tied, they'd be tied for the division lead. So it goes to the division record, and the Celtics have a better division record. They're 9-6 against division teams. Philly is 6-9 against division teams. So Boston owns the tiebreaker against Philly. Boston beats Milwaukee, they'll own the tiebreaker against Milwaukee. And especially if you beat Miami, now you've put an extra game ahead of you. By beating Milwaukee, they would put an extra game ahead of them. And by having the tiebreaker, it's like being 2 games up. At this point, that would seal it. So the Celtics are right around that top seed and probably will finish somewhere. It's going to be super, super close. So however this plays out, really, it doesn't matter. And again, I'll get into the health stuff later. I want to start off on a positive note. I want to start off on this. The Celtics went from January being the 11th seed. They were on the outside of the play-in. Everybody was talking about the Celtics having to be in the play-in side. And even the Celtics were talking about, I remember Al Horford saying, we want to stay out of that play-in when the Celtics climbed up to 6th. That was a major thing. Wow, the Celtics are out of the play-in. That was a big accomplishment. But think about, you go back to back-to-back losses, San Antonio, New York. Celtics are 18-21. They're 3 games below 500 at 18-21. And now they are 47-28. So they have now won, what's that, 29 games since then. And they're 29-7 since then. That's crazy. That's crazy, the turnaround. They've won 6 straight games, 9 out of their last 10. They've just dominated. And I mean, domination. They're winning these games by like 16 points a game. They've had 20-point leads in every one of these games in the 6-game winning streak. And that includes going back to the beginning of the road trip, Golden State, Denver, then Utah, and then Minnesota. I mean, go down the range. Golden State, the 3rd seed. I know there were injuries. Utah, the 5th seed. They lost what? Bogdanovich, big deal. Denver, Minnesota. These are all playoff teams. Minnesota is fighting for the play-in. They're at the 7th seed right now. At 43 and now 33, 10 games above 500. That's a good team. That's a good team. And the Celtics just squashed all of them. So take a minute. Let's just take this minute. You're on your drive, you're in your shower, you're walking the dog. Just take a second to just soak it in. Just soak it in. Because as Celtics fans, you've gone through a lot. You've watched this team be horrible. You've watched this team be mediocre. And now in this game against Minnesota, there were some stretches there where it's like, wow, this is such a well-oiled machine. They are just going through stretches where Minnesota had no chance. Like there were like little 2 and 3 minute stretches where the Celtics just asserted themselves, and it was just basket, and turnover. And it just became like a whirlwind. So the Celtics are not only the number 1 seed, they earned that number 1 seed. They have dominated and thrashed teams to get to this number 1 seed. This is a spot where Boston belongs. And I think we need to take a second to really, truly appreciate the Boston Celtics are not just the number 1 seed. They are a legitimate number 1 seed that has just gone out and just destroyed teams. Their point differential is now up to 6.8. It's second only to the Phoenix Suns and almost a full point better than the next team, the Memphis Grizzlies. That's just, it's wild to me. The Celtics are scoring 110 points, giving up 104, almost 111, giving up about 104. So that's the good news. Let me get into the Minnesota game because there were a few things there where, you know, the defense, and it looked very much like the Denver game. It very much followed that same script. So I'll get to that in just a second. First, let's talk about Built Bar, because Built Bar, I just placed an order for a couple of new boxes. Built Bar is great because I like it. It's a great snack. Sometimes in the mornings, you know, you're on the go, especially if the Celtics have a practice and I need to, you know, I've been up late, I'm recording a podcast late after a game. If they got to practice the next day, grab one, grab my coffee, and I'm out the door. And I have at least a Built Bar in my hands to get me through. And with the 17 grams of protein or so, that's going to be something that I think fuels my body for the day or for that little stretch during the day. But if you're not into protein bars, or if you're not into something like that, you can get to the Built Puffs, which is a protein infused marshmallow, which is kind of wild. I don't know how they're doing this stuff, but they are. And, these things are covered in 100% chocolate. They're still keeping them to about 130 to 150 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs. And like I said, 17 grams of protein or so in each one of these, and flavors that fit every profile, whatever type of stuff you normally like. Go to built.com and check it out. Use the promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off every single time. And that's the big selling point to me, because I just use it again. I pay for my own Built Bars. They don't just send me Built Bars all the time. I'm paying for them, and the promo code works. I use the promo code. You use it too. LOCK15, and stock up. Pick a flavor if you want. If you want to just kind of sample around, you buy one thing, use the promo code. Go back, buy another thing, use the promo code. However many times you want, it's all there. Check it out. Go to built.com. Promo code is LOCK15, 15% off every single time. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. How about making your second listen Locked On Now? Locked On Now, it's a great little recap of the night in the NBA. You get it from each side. So each host from each team records a couple minutes. You get to hear each side kind of say, this is what we saw in the game. It gives you a good, well-rounded kind of recap of the night. It's quick. So check it out. Locked On Now, wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch the show on the Locked On NBA YouTube feed. Boston Celtics, again, beating the Minnesota Timberwolves 134-112. They had a lead as high as 29, I believe, at one point. Celtics get 65 combined points. Once again, the formula here, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum. This is what happens when Tatum and Brown are cooking. And they have been cooking together for a while now. Jaylen and Jayson each hit 12 shots. Tatum was 12 of 21. Jaylen was 12 of 20. So that's 24 of 41. And a combined 65 points. Jayson had 34. Jaylen had 31. Jaylen also had 10 rebounds. Tatum had 6 assists. This is what this team is supposed to be. So I don't want to let people off the hook for screaming about they need to trade Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. I don't want that. This is not how this should go. Someone doesn't get to scream about, oh, you got to break these guys up and then just get to move on. Like, I can understand being wrong. Like, I've said things and say, I was wrong about that. But the hot take crap that all of the people who are spewing, you need to break these two up, those people need to be held out. And that includes Kendrick Perkins, who is, when I saw Rob on his Instagram kind of post that video and call it out, good. People should be calling that out because that was not a well thought out take. That was a hot take. And the only way we push back, the only way we stop the hot takes is to call these people out and embarrass them for their hot takes. That's what I think. I mean, some people, they just see that as attention, but I just think that the hot takes, the people who spew this stuff, you can't just let them just say it and then get away with it. You know what I mean? Like some of these people, they just need to be called out. If it's one thing, if you're like made a well-reasoned argument, but it's anyway, I'm going off the rails here. The Celtics in this game was very much like a repeat of the Denver game where Jokic came out and had a good first quarter and the Celtics were basically, they were going like, I think it was a tie game. And in this game, the Celtics were basically, I think they were up 4 at the end of the first quarter. So they were going head to head and it was a battle early on. And then the big guy checks out. When Jokic checked out, when Towns checked out, the Celtics start going on their run. And by the time they checked back in, it was too late. And Jokic had a bad second quarter when the Celtics faced Denver. And Towns, he scored 12 points in the first quarter and 7 the entire rest of the game. So that defensive effort, the Celtics started doubling. The Celtics started mixing up their coverage. Jayson Tatum had some really good possessions defending. And Karl Anthony Towns was like shooing guys away to go up against Tatum. And Tatum was holding his own. Shout out to Jayson Tatum for being the MVP candidate and still going out there and accepting these guarding. Like, he will switch onto Towns. And like, Towns is not much bigger than Tatum. Like, Tatum's a big dude. He's not 6'8". That dude is like almost 7 feet tall now. He's like 6'10". Tatum's a huge guy. And Towns just, I know what he thought he saw, but that's not what he got when he went up against Jayson Tatum. Second quarter, Celtics went on a 17-4 run. It was a 4-point game. Then all of a sudden it becomes a 17-point game. Derrick White, this is huge. Derrick White scores the first 8 points of the second quarter. A 3-pointer, big deal for him. A 3-point play, and then a couple free throws, and he's out there scoring the first 8 points of a 17-4 run. Celtics win this quarter 38-19. Derrick White, I think we can say he's out of the slump. I think Derrick White, we can say the slump is over. He was 4 of 6 in this game, 2 of 4. He got to the line 5 times, 15 points, 6 assists. Perfect game for Derrick White. That's just that's exactly what you need from him. And it's funny, I have people like some jerk tweets about Derrick White's the worst thing that could happen to the Celtics. And people just do not want to pay attention. Derrick White has been great and was huge in that second quarter. Also huge, Payton Pritchard. He just checks in and hits his first three-pointers and just comes in hot, which was, great to see. I talked about Jaylen Brown. Robert Williams, before he got hurt, was all over the place too. And block shots out of nowhere. The whole formula here, it's all come together. The whole formula, the way, even without Al Horford, who was out for personal reasons, they were able to get Robert Williams onto that help side, and he was there protecting the rim. He only had 1 block shot, but he was definitely affecting shots as well. He had 6 offensive rebounds, 6 of 7 from the field, finishing dunks and, finishing just finishing plays that really are backbreakers, extending plays for the Celtics where getting to a loose ball, keeping a possession alive, and then finishing it off with a dunk or something like that. Like those types of plays are the backbreakers. So the Celtics, again, on a good team, against a good team, they kind of held Anthony Edwards in check. He was 9 of 16 and 5 of 9 from 3, but he piled up a lot of those stats late. 24, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. Looks like a great night from Anthony Edwards, but I thought he was like non-existent for most of the night. He had 5 turnovers, which were costly. And so I thought overall he was a minus 14. And that was one of the worst plus minuses on the team. He was on the floor for a lot of the real bad stuff. And there was a reason for that. So Celtics did a great job on him. They did a great job on Towns, 19 points, but again, 12 in the first quarter. I tweeted out that he was like, I thought he was going to go for 50. And then after the first quarter, when he came back in, everything changed. The Celtics doubled him. He turned the ball over. The Celtics got down the other end and scored. And I thought, like, oh wow, okay, they're actually finding a way to stop him. But that first quarter, he was going through Grant Williams. He's going like through Daniel Tice. He was doing anything he wanted. It was wild. I thought Towns was going to go for a 50-point night, and it was going to be a tight game. I was expecting a tight game. Celtics blew it open. Their second quarter was fantastic. And then after that, they were kind of cruising. There were a couple of spots where it got up to 27 and then down to 19 and then up to 25 and then down to 18. And they kind of played around in that little zone, but Minnesota never really made a run at it. And frankly, once they stopped Towns, then that cuts off the spigot to Jared Vanderbilt, who in the first, he was just doing chin-ups on the rim in the first quarter. But when you appropriately defend Towns and you're not overreacting and losing Vanderbilt, then that stops. And when that stops, now that takes a piece away that's been hurting you. D'Angelo Russell, 4 points. This is a big one. 4 points, minus 19, 1 of 6, 0 of 3 from 3. That was a huge one to shut down. The Timberwolves, it's funny, they shot, I guess, well, but they normally win these games when they shoot well, but they just couldn't put enough together. And I think they padded some stats late in the game. Look, the Celtics defense was great. The Celtics got big contributions from a lot of guys. But then Robert Williams gets hurt. And Jaylen Brown's on the sidelines flexing his knee. Jayson Tatum is talking about his knee being sore. So here we are after a huge win and the Celtics in the top seed. And all of a sudden it's like, well, what now? Because you got a back-to-back and all of a sudden all these guys seem hurt. This is why the seed doesn't matter. And this is what I was talking about earlier. And this is what I'm going to talk about next. After I talk to you about NBA Top Shot. It's the officially licensed NFT of the NBA. Go connect with a community of hundreds of thousands of NBA fans as a natural progression of fantasy sports, a way to upgrade your experience as an NBA fan. Top Shot, it's a new thing. It's the 2022 version of trading cards. Now, I, as an old person, I remember trading cards. You rip open a pack, you trade them. They only made a few, and that was what we did. They only made like a few specific cards, and if you had one and it's in great condition, you could make a ton of money. Well, with the age of the internet and all of that stuff, they had to do something different. And so they created Top Shot, an NFT, and it's a video version of the trading card. And yeah, you could look at that video on YouTube. People say that all the time. But the way this is done, it's just different. Just like you could look at a picture of something on the internet. You don't own that card. You can look at the card, but you don't own it. This is, you own the video. They've created this blockchain technology which allows for you to own this video. So think of it as this combination of trading cards, stock market, fantasy sports, and this airline kind of loyalty program for the NBA. You check it out. You can trade them. You can sell them. You can have challenges. The Top Shot has challenges where you can earn moments. You can earn these NFT rewards. And so, it's worth checking out. You can go get a starter pack for $9 and sign up today and see what you think. Check it out. See what you like. It's the future of being an NBA fan. You can own officially licensed rare NFTs of the greatest moments from NBA history. You can sign up today at lockedon.nbatopshot.com. lockedon.nbatopshot.com. Check it out. $9 gets you a starter pack, and then you can see what it's all about. Join the community. I'm on there. I'm John Karalis, just my name. So check it out. Let me know what you think at lockedon.nbatopshot.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Rock Auto. Rock Auto is giving you anything that you need to fix your car, no matter how complicated, no matter how simple, whatever you need for your car, truck, SUV, motorcycle, whatever you would go to a chain store for, you can get it at rockauto.com. You can probably get it at a lot less than you would pay. Don't waste your time going to one of these chain stores. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your gas. Gas is super expensive now. It's very valuable. You don't need to be driving around all over going to 3 different auto parts shops to see if they have the part that you want or the part that you need at a price that you can afford. Stay at home, log on to rockauto.com, put in all your car's information, and then you'll get a very easy to scroll through catalog with all the price points. You're going to save yourself a lot of money. There's a Honda Odyssey fuel pump, for example, $350 at the chain store, $216 at rockauto.com. If you need something simpler, okay, maybe you're not going to do your own brakes. Maybe you just need a new carpet or tail lamps or motor oil. That's all at rockauto.com as well. When you go to rockauto.com and buy something, I'm pretty sure you will, go to their How Did You Hear About Us box. That's how they know we sent you. When you write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, super important that you do that. It's an amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So I'm kind of leaving the worst part for last because I wanted to put it off and not ruin all the excitement of being a top seed. Robert Williams left this game with knee soreness, and it was his left knee. They're calling it a left knee sprain. How he did it, when he did it, no one seems to really know for sure. You try rewatching the game and people can show you there are a couple of spots where you're like, okay, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. He said, Ime Udoka said that he was told he doesn't know. He said it wasn't even a specific play that he remembers. So Robert Williams doesn't even remember like, oh, I landed wrong or this or that. He comes out and he has pain on the side of his knee. It's on the lateral side. So in the knee, you've got a bunch of ligaments. You know, ligaments are what hold the bones together. You have a medial collateral ligament, the MCL. You have the lateral collateral ligament, which is the LCL. On each side of the knee, this seems to be the lateral collateral ligament. So you got that. And then, you know, inside you got the ACL, the anterior cruciate, and then the PCL, the posterior cruciate, that kind of crisscrosses and holds your knees. You know, it's all about stability and holding everything together. Anyway, that's your knee biology story. It seems like, from what Ime says, it's going to be the lateral collateral ligament, which we'll see if it's strained, if it's torn, if it's whatever it is, if that's what it is at all, and if maybe it's something else, maybe who knows. But right now, all we know is by the time you listen to this podcast, Robert Williams will probably get some imaging done. He is not going to Toronto. So Robert Williams will miss the Raptors game. And then we'll find out at some point before the game how serious this is. Is it a 1-game thing? Is it a 2-game thing? Is it a 2-week thing? We'll see. How long will this impact him? Hard to say. No one seems to know. But the reason why the top seed doesn't matter anymore, like I spent the first part saying like they could go all sorts of places. The Celtics I think they've accomplished what they need to accomplish. They've proven what they need to prove. They got to that top seed. They've shown us when you play your absolute best, this is what we're capable of. They've shown us all of that stuff. Now it's about getting fully healthy. So Jaylen Brown at the end of the game, he came out, he's on the side of the, by the bench, and he's kind of like flexing his right leg. He's kind of holding the top of his knee, or kind of like massaging the top of his knee. I've done that before a million times. You probably, if you're watching me at a game, you might see me rubbing the tops of my knees. It's like a tendonitis thing. That is kind of like par for the course. If you're playing basketball for a full season and your knee doesn't get sore, congratulations, because generally your knees are going to get sore. He and Jayson Tatum are having similar issues. Maybe it's affecting him a little bit different ways, but Jaylen not hurt, but in some level of pain. Jayson Tatum in some level of pain, couldn't even commit to playing in this game. So I say Tatum with the knee out, Jaylen Brown with the knee out. Al Horford's already potentially out with, for personal reasons. I don't know what the personal reasons are. Hopefully nothing's wrong, but he's probably, Ime said he's not likely to play. He's not likely to play. So Rob is already out. Al out. Jaylen, let's say out. Jayson out. Let's go. Start, maybe you start Marcus Smart with Nesmith and Pritchard and, Luke Cornett. Let's just roll with, see what these guys can do. Get these guys some minutes. And the unfortunate thing is that if Toronto wins, then, they'll probably avoid. Actually, I think Toronto's kind of like done with. I'm looking at the standings now. They're only a game ahead of Cleveland. So if Toronto wins, I was right the first time. Then that puts more distance between them and Cleveland. And if there's a matchup in that 7-8, if Brooklyn gets up to that 7-8, Kyrie still can't travel to Canada. So that would be, you still want to stick it to the Nets, right? So, but whatever, that's fine. The Celtics don't care. The Celtics really don't care who they play. They don't. The Celtics, I think at this point, it's more about being healthy. It's not about manipulating seeds. And Ime Udoka said after the game, some teams will manipulate and try to engineer their path. The Celtics, they don't care. It's about being healthy. Healthy is the number one thing. If the Celtics are healthy, they can beat anybody. They've proven that they can beat anybody when they're healthy. We've seen them beat everybody. We've seen them dominate good teams. So let's keep that rolling when the team is healthy. So if the Celtics drop to fourth, who cares? Who cares? Wherever the Celtics fall, they fall. If it's second, it's second. If it's third, if it's first, if it's fourth, as long as it's in that top four, they don't care. They've been able to win on the road. They've been blowing teams out on the road. They've shown that they can do it. The key is to be healthy. So I stand behind the first segment where I said, take a breath, enjoy this top seed. It's meaningful. All the talk in the morning is going to be about the Celtics climbing up to that top seed. I'm sure a lot of the conversation would be about the Lakers falling down to 10th. There is still a possibility the Lakers could miss the play-in entirely. They're only a game ahead of San Antonio. So everyone root for the Spurs, because I think it would be a lot of fun to watch the Lakers fall completely out and not even be in the play-in. That would be fantastic. But the talk should be about the Boston Celtics being number one. But they're only going to be worthy of that top seed if they're healthy. That's it. This team is not able to kind of withstand these sore knees. This team cannot deal with the 90% or 85% of these, Tatum, or 85% Jaylen Brown. These guys get to be as close to 100% as possible. It's like a video game, and you're playing against hard bosses now. And you've got to get that health meter as high up as you can go, because you know you're going to be taking a beating, and you can't let that meter run out by the end before you beat the game. That's where they are. So if you're one of these people who is very much in the get that top seed, push for that top seed, and I don't think there are a lot of Celtics fans who are. I think a lot of Celtics fans, I think you guys know that this has got to be like a much more well thought out plan. It's not about the seeding anymore. The Celtics have gotten to that 47-28. They have 7 more games to go. They just need to win 3 to get to that 50 win, that magical 50 win number. That would be amazing. Ime Udoka in his first year as head coach, a 50 win head coach. That would be awesome. But none of this awesome stuff means anything if they're not healthy, because the Celtics can lose in the first round to the Charlotte Hornets if Charlotte gets through, if they're not healthy. But if the Celtics are, they can wax the Hornets and sweep them, and then they can go and face whomever else and really kind of, if they're healthy, they can make a deep run. It could be Boston Phoenix in the NBA Finals. No one would bat an eye at that if the Celtics are healthy. So that's the priority. Get yourself ready. Get yourself in the proper mindset that it's going to be Celtics, Maine Celtics against the Toronto Raptors. And then we'll go from there. I'd rather see these guys kind of sit and then beat the Miami Heat on Wednesday. And then if you beat Miami, then you now have that extra something ahead of them. So that's the plan. I will be here after the Toronto Raptors game. I'm not going to Toronto. I will be here at home, watching from home, just like everybody else, and then doing a podcast after the game so we can talk a little bit more about that. And hopefully the Celtics go out there and rest everybody and the other guys step up. It's just because you rest people doesn't mean that the guys who play can't perform. Maybe the Celtics will step up and surprise somebody. We'll see. I'll talk about it after the game. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Hopefully you're watching the show on YouTube. We're up right around 4,600 subscribers. So a couple more weeks. I'd love to get it to 5,000 before the playoffs start. So please subscribe there. If you are a subscriber, I would really love it if you shared the podcast. Tell your friends, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.